This is the 2025 FCT Inter-Private School Debate Competition. The motion for today is, this House supports the regulation of social media to combat misinformation in Nigeria. Our schools for today is Sure Start Schools and Raberto Schools. Sure Start Schools will be on the proposing side while Raberto will be opposing. Please, can we have the chief speaker from the proposing side take the stage?
The proliferation of misinformation has become a pandemic. Spreading lies and fueling fears has become the order of the day. Good day, Mr. Chairman, panel of judges, accurate timekeeper, co-debaters, ladies and gentlemen. I am Maimuna Isa, a student of Sure Start School, standing to confidently propose the motion. This House supports the regulation of social media to combat misinformation in Nigeria. Misinformation, one man's food, another man's poison. The word misinformation implies inaccurate or false information meant to deceive, intentionally or unintentionally. The internet in Nigeria, much like in many other nations, is a vibrant space for booming expressions, where diverse voices converge and ideas are exchanged. But it is also increasingly insidious to the spread of misinformation. Allow me to start giving you some points. Transparency in online advertisements. Regulating social media gives social media users the opportunities of knowing the sources and motives behind online advertisements. Take, for instance, you're scrolling through social media and you're met up with this advert that keeps disrupting your peace. And it says, play Robot Rush with 5,000 naira only and win 1 million naira instantly. Ladies and gentlemen, more like, play Robot Rush with 5,000 naira only and lose 1 million naira instantly. Or, with onions and lime, you can cure tuberculosis. What antioxidants does onions and lime contain that will help cure tuberculosis? It's a scam, misinformation. Let's show that we value truth. But transparency in online advertisements is a measure that takes courage, conviction, and commitment to the truth. My opponents may say freedom of speech, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. Yes, freedom of speech, which is indeed paramount. But I strongly believe that freedom of speech is not the spread of misinformation, as it leads to serious threats to individuals, societies, and the nation as a whole. Therefore, a multifaceted approach is needed in order to combat the spread of misinformation. Our Nigerian digital sphere, where information travels like lightning speed, it has become an innovative ground for the establishment of falsehood. My second point, supporting fact-checking and verification initiatives. We are not here to merely diagnose a problem. We are here to proffer a solution. We are here to argue, justify why it is not only necessary but urgent, overdue, to combat the spread of misinformation, to counter false arguments. Finally, reducing misinformation that can help reduce harm. I strongly believe that our motion today is not a call for censorship, but a call for regulation. A call for social media platforms to take ownership in shaping our public discourse. A call for the government to take control in protecting their citizens from the harm of misinformation. Mr. Chairman, panel of judges, ladies and gentlemen, our motion today contains the word misinformation and not information. So there is no reason why we are going to be regulating the spread of relevant information or regulating freedom of speech. Therefore, I believe that with the points I've mentioned, I've been able to convince everyone here that regulating social media will do a great deal to combat the spread of misinformation in Nigeria. People's lives are at risk. People's mental health are at risk. The economy is at risk. Democracy is at risk. Let's show that we care. Let's show that we value facts. Let's show that we value the integrity of our public discourse. Thank you.
Thank the speaker for that fine speech, and we invite the lead speaker from side opposition to continue this debate. Here.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Laurie Anderson once said, censorship is the child of fear and the father of ignorance. I want to first start off by saying my opponent mentioned as one of their points seeing many different forms of ads that spread misinformation. And I want to counter that by saying that there is no need to regulate social media to counter these, as already there have been social media controls that have been used, such as ad blockers, to remove these, or a feature in YouTube known as Not Interested, which can remove stuff like this. So today, good evening, Mr. Chairman, the moderator, panel of judges, and my fellow debaters. Today, I stand firmly against the regulation of social media to combat misinformation. While misinformation is a prevalent problem in Nigeria, by regulating social media, we risk opening the door to government abuse and control. While I understand that regulating social media may seem like a quick fix for a lot of the problems that we have, we risk silencing the truth as well as the lies. So let me start by listing my various points, and I ask that you lend me your ears. My first point is that it poses a threat to freedom of expression. By allowing the government to regulate social media, we would be giving them the power to delete posts that do not align with government opinions under the guise of misinformation. By allowing the government to regulate social media, we would essentially be giving them the power to regulate whatever we say online. An example of this is the Indian government, who deleted many posts on COVID-19 under the guise of misinformation. But in truth, these posts were just unpopular opinions that the government personally did not agree with. And again, 62% of Americans fear of speech silence for the regulation of social media. So even multiple people agree with what I'm already saying. Secondly, this poses the threat of government overreach. First, I want to start by explaining what government overreach is. Government overreach refers to when the government gains more power or authority to an extent that is considered unlawful by their own constitution. By the regulation of social media, we would be granting the government the power to monitor activities of political opposition as well as the press. An example of this would be in 2021, where the Ugandan government imposed strict social media tax laws which allowed them to monitor the press as well as political opposition. Ladies and gentlemen, it goes without saying that this is an utterly gross and very disgusting invasion of privacy that violates many constitutional rights that I do not have the time to mention right now. Lastly, the regulation of social media poses the problem of censorship and the control of narratives. By allowing the government to regulate social media, we'd be giving them the power to control the flow of information to the extent that it only benefits them and not the people. How can we say that the regulation of social media would be used for the purpose of combating misinformation alone, when we would give the government the power to do whatever they want with this, such as control information? Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to picture a scenario in your head. Imagine a world where somebody had the power to decide who's good and who's evil simply with the push of a button. This is the power that we'd essentially be giving the government by regulating social media, as we would allow them the power to control whatever narrative they want simply by censoring information. So I have a question. Are you truly free if you let someone else control what you say and what you do? That concludes the points that I have listed. I hope that with these points I have been able to convince you of my argument. I thank you very much.
All right. Thank the speaker for that fine speech, and we invite the second speaker from side proposition to continue this debate. Here.
Okay. Life is but a canvas on which you paint your future. And so I stand to extend my heartfelt greetings to our Mr. Chairman, Mr. Moderator, impartial judges and jury, accurate timekeeper, my co-debaters, and our distinguished audience. I am Onuche Great, a student of Shaw Star School, standing before you today to confidently propose the motion. This House supports the regulation of social media to combat misinformation in Nigeria. Social media has undeniably transformed the way we interact with the world, but it's not without challenges. From the unchecked spread of misinformation to privacy breaches, harmful content, and risk to vulnerable users. Regulation is not a means to retard free expression, but rather a mechanism to ensure the proper and accountable use of it. It can bridge the gap between protection of individual rights and safeguarding the collective well-being of a country. Here are some reasons why social media should be regulated. Firstly, technical solutions. As I stand here to give you a fresh perspective on this motion, while commending the compelling argument of my team member, I would like to draw your mind back to the underlying assumptions that has driven this debate so far, and I would love to add that we develop a more effective and efficient algorithm to eliminate misinformation from various online platforms. Secondly, misinformation and disinformation. The unchecked disposal on false information tend to pose a threat to a country's public health and societal well-being. Take, for instance, during an important event like an election. False information could spread like wildfire and could cause citizens to display inappropriate behaviors. This has misled voters in so many ways. My opponents may say implementation of challenges, government abuse of power, but no, those are not only the things that can be used to regulate social media. Let me give you more points. It can encourage digital literacy. Implementation regulation often comes with public awareness campaigns and education reforms to boost the ability for people to detect misinformation from various platforms. Also, it prevents electoral manipulation. False political news can sway public opinions, but by regulating content, Nigerians can be able to protect their democratic processes and electoral integrity. Furthermore, protection of vulnerable users. Regulation of social media can protect users from fraudulent confrontations and privacy breaches. Algorithms such as antiviruses, strong firewalls, and strong passwords can be used to reduce the risk of information loss and to checkmate misinformation. In conclusion, honorable judges, regulation of social media is very important for the protection of information and the development in our technological innovation. I believe with these strong points I've stated, you are convinced beyond any reasonable doubt that social media should be regulated to combat misinformation in Nigeria. Thank you.
We thank the speaker for that fine speech, and we invite the second speaker from side opposition.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, the moderator, panel of judges, accurate timekeepers, and co-debater. My name is Oluchukwu from Raberto Schools, and I'm here to oppose the motion of the regulation of social media to avoid misinformation. Let me begin by asking you this. If the same social media that once gave millions of Nigerians a voice during the EndSARS protest is now being threatened with regulation, are we truly fighting misinformation or simply silencing dissent? Who decides what counts as misinformation? An independent body or the very same government that fears public scrutiny? Which brings me to my first point. It causes harm to democratic engagement. Social media regulation threatens democratic engagement by silencing citizen activism and discouraging political participation, particularly among the youths. During the EndSARS protest, over 28 million tweets with the hashtag EndSARS were shared globally, amplifying call for police reforms and mobilizing both national and international support. Proponents argue that regulation is needed to prevent incitement and false news. However, studies show that overregulation disproportionality targets the opposition content rather than this harmful misinformation. And you may be wondering, what does this opposition content include? These opposition content include posts that criticize the government, campaigns from the opposition parties, tweets and live streams that show political violence and political corruption, and journalists that expose the misconduct of the government. According to a 2022 report from the Paradigm Initiative, over 70% of flag posts during this report were political, not false. Which brings me to my question. Are we truly fighting misinformation or simply silencing dissent? My next point is it targets journalists and activists. Regulation on social media can be weaponized to harm these journalists. Regulation on social media can be used to target these journalists, suppressing dissent and undermining press freedom and civic rights. According to a 2021, Omoyele Sowore, founder of the Sahara Reporters, has been arrested multiple times as a result of organizing protests via social media. According to Reporters Without Borders, Nigeria ranked 118 out of 180 in press freedom as of 2023, with digital regression as noted as the key reason. Supporters of regulation claim it protects national security. However, national security claims are vague and abused. According to a 2021 Amnesty International report, found that over 60% of digital-related arrests in Nigeria lacked formal charges and even court approval, indicating the abuse of regulatory powers in Nigeria. My next point, its impact on digital businesses. Social media regulation can negatively affect Nigeria's digital economy by hurting startups, content creators, and SMEs who use this online platform as a means to gain revenue. According to NetBlocks, a 2021 Twitter ban reportedly cost Nigeria over 6 billion naira, approximately $14 million in economic losses. While that, supporters say that this regulation protects consumers from fraud. While that is valid, overbroad regulation risks putting innovation on the ground. Rather than this, we could use targeted enforcement through the existing Cyber Crime Act, which is less economically damaging. My question is, if existing laws such as the Cyber Crime Act already target this harmful content, what exactly is the purpose of this new regulation? I hope with my points I've been able to convince you that regulation on social media does not combat misinformation. And with all I have said, I leave you with a question to ponder. If authoritarian regimes such as China use the same tactics to suppress free expression in citizens, us as a democratic society, are we okay and are we comfortable walking that same path? Thank you.
Very much. We thank the speaker for that very fine speech, and we invite the third speaker from side proposition.
A lie can travel halfway around its shoes. These words, often attributed to Mark Twain, perfectly capture the reality of social media today. This esteemed audience, worthy opponents, good day. I am Fatima Mustafa, proudly representing Shore Start Schools, and I rise as the final speaker of the proposition to the motion which calls for the regulation of social media to combat misinformation in Nigeria. We have seen fake news manipulate elections, incite violence, and even cost lives. Misinformation is not just a minor problem, it is with devastating consequences. Honorable judges, the spread of fake news has led to democracy, security risks, and public health hazards. During the NSAS protests, misinformation caused panic, destruction, and deepened distrust in the government. Misinformation about increasing deaths in the society. People have also died from using fake cures spread online. Regulation isn't a muzzle, it's a mirror, reflecting truth, not suppressing it. When lies incite violence, when fake cures risk lives, silence is complicity. I overheard my opponent state that social media already have guidelines against misinformation. But if these guidelines were enough, why does fake news still spread so freely? We need government regulation to ensure accountability. They manipulated trends and bots. Countries like Germany and France have already enacted social media laws, proving the regulation works. If they can do it, why can't Nigeria? The opposition will have you believe the regulation equals censorship. But this is not a war against speech. It's a war against deceit. We are not calling for censorship, but for responsible regulation, such as fines for social media platforms which allow fake news to spread freely, government fact-checking bodies to verify viral news, and stronger cyber laws to hold those who spread dangerous misinformation accountable. We've had claims that education is the answer, and we agree. But education without regulations like handing out umbrellas in a hurricane. It helps, but it's not enough. They have argued the regulation threatens free speech. But I ask, does free speech include the right to deceive, manipulate, and incite violence? Freedom of speech does not necessarily mean freedom to spread lies. In fact, if we allow fake news to thrive, then we are threatening the true freedom of speech, because real facts get buried under a flood of lies. In conclusion, honorable judges, misinformation is a deadly disease, and social media is its fastest carrier. Without regulation, Nigeria will continue to suffer from manipulated elections, security threats, and public health hazards. Honorable judges, esteemed audience, and worthy opponents, we cannot afford to sit back and watch misinformation tear our society apart. Every fake news story that spreads unchecked chips away at our democracy, fuels violence, and endangers lives. If we fail to act now, we will wake up to a world where lies dictate reality. But if we choose to regulate, we choose a Nigeria where facts matter, where truth is protected, and where progress is built on reality, not deception. Regulation isn't about threatening free speech. It's about ensuring that those voices speak the truth. It's about protecting the integrity of our nation and the well-being of our people. Judges, we don't fear freedom. We fear a world where lies dictate reality. We fear a world where truth bleeds while lies go viral. Let us stop handing microphones to misinformation. Let us lace up the boots of truth and help it finish the race. Because in a world ruled by lies, regulation isn't restriction, it's rescue. So I urge this House to make the right choice, support the regulation of social media, and stand for the truth. Thank you.
All right, we thank the speaker for that very fine speech. I'll invite the third speaker from side opposition to end this debate. Here.
Fine ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you a little story to begin with. During the EndSARS protest in 2020, a young fashion entrepreneur based in Lagos turned her Instagram page into a lifeline. She posted emergency contacts, police hotlines, and real-time updates of what was happening in the country. Within 24 hours, her page was flagged and shut down. Why? Not because she spread lies, rather because she spoke the truth. George Orwell once said, "Telling the truth in times of deceit is seen as a revolutionary act." So with that, I say good evening to you, Mr. Chairman, moderator, panel of judges, accurate timekeeper, and my co-debaters. My name is Shaibu Fatima, a proud student of Raberto schools, and I stand firmly today to oppose the motion of the regulation of social media to combat misinformation in Nigeria, and the following are my points. Firstly, misinformation is hard to define but easy to politize. To define misinformation is often subjective, especially in the hands of the government. For example, during the EndSARS protest in 2020, real-life eyewitness videos showing police brutality were labeled as fake until popular news outlets such as CNN provided verification for this. Reporters Without Borders say that Nigeria, as of 2024, ranks 112 out of 120 on the World Press Freedom Index. If the state defines truth, then democracy is truly in danger. Secondly, platforms are already effectively managing misinformation in Nigeria. Tech companies have built-in systems to detect false content. They use algorithms, community notes, and fact checkers. In 2023, Meta removed 1.3 billion fake accounts off of their platform and flagged over 200 million posts. They as well partnered with 80 third-party fact checkers. Let me deliver a quote. Technology is a tool, a very powerful one, but whether it oppresses or empowers is up to who controls it. X, formerly known as Twitter, uses community notes to crowdsource misleading tweets to counter my opponent's points. And thirdly, Nigeria already has existing frameworks. The Cybercrime Act of 2015 criminalizes cyber stalking, internet fraud, and identity fraud. EFCC have reported over 400 cases of 400 crimes using this law. Provision of additional regulation will only lead to overlap and selective enforcement, which will further confuse the citizens. The law is there. What we need is enforcement, not expansion. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's say no to fear-based censorship. Let's say no to punishing truth tellers. And let's say yes to innovation, initiative ideas, and accountability. I thank you.
a beautiful